Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to the Wednesday week, the Sheffield Wednesday. What? Blah, 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 blah. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen.
Great start.
That could not be a more fitting start to our 150 episode.
Let's just upload that and just go, F it. That was as good as we got.
The Wednesday week is sponsored by the Riverside Cafe, the perfect place for a pre-match pint.
There's a chance here. A great save. A turner from the clear. Might come. A terrific goal by Sheridan. Brexman against Jones. Get in. You could have two goalkeepers in there. They would have trouble saving.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to the Wednesday week, the Sheffield Wednesday podcast, the 150th Wednesday week podcast. I am so excited for today. And joining me with my excitement are all my wonderful internet friends. God, that sounds wrong. First of all, on the line we have Mr. Marriott. Jamesy Albin, how the chuff are you?
Happy birthday to... Oh, it's not birthday. Happy anniversary episode 2. No, I really should have thought this through, shouldn't I?
Quite like that. Very good. Next on the line we have Victoria. Sweetie Pie, how the devil are you?
Hello, my lord. I'm okay, thanks. This has taken a while, hasn't it, just to even get recorded? It's so professional.
It wouldn't be us if we didn't chuff everything up at the beginning.
I'm 43 now.
Well, yeah, we'll see.
I've gone back a year.
Dickie Owl, how the chuff are you, Albin?
I'm so excited. I've actually baked a cake today. And guess what shape it
Hitting
is?
a ball!
No, it's a rugby ball shape.
Ah.
Have I got that wrong?
Oh, I thought you were going to say, like, penis. So it's going to be like
Penis cake.
cock and ball cake. You know,
You said that
like...
with-
What kind of
said
parties
that
do
with
you go
ones.
to?
Everyone's made one of those, haven't they?
Have
Haven't
they?
they? Haven't they?
No, it's not something I've done. No, just odd shaped balls.
Ah.
Now, one man that has certainly not only baked, but cooked, eaten and licked quite a few cock and ball cakes, Mr. Fudge, how the chuff are you, Albin?
Wait, what? Licked cock and ball cakes. Is that where we are now? We're taking it. You know, earlier on you did a clip of me being just racist, and then now I'm getting outed across the internet as well. But I'm all right, Lord H.
Where were you this weekend?
I've been in Skegness the last couple of days, and
And you're telling me that you've not seen cock and balls?
well, listen, most shops there, sell cock and ball based bits, but they have shut down what I like to call the grot shop. There used to be a big sex shop in Skegness in the lanes down the back, and oh god, it was grim. It was uglier than the Ace of Spades, and yeah, I thought, well, let's have a look. We're all lads, aren't we? We're all Wednesday, and then no, shut down.
Oh, were you disappointed, Fudgy? Oh boy.
I was, mate. I was.
Was that your trip to Skegness ruined?
Well, the fact that everything was shut as well, because it's middle of bloody November, and in seaside towns don't tend to work. So it's all right though, because I watched a 0-0 draw for England last night in a Yates's. So every cloud, eh?
Life is good.
Now, we do have another, I don't know if to say guest or panellist or how to describe this chap, but, ladies and gentlemen, for the 150 podcast, Chuffing Eddie's back. Eddie, old boy, that's Chuffing you.
Oh! You'll never guess what happened to me.
You didn't go to Skegger with Fudge.
Did your sex shop get closed down in Skegness?
At one point...
Did someone bake you into a cock and ball cake?
Wouldn't be the first time. At one point in the summer, I was lost on an A road in France, and I didn't want to talk about what the goings on at Sheffield Wednesday. And honestly, I was quite upset that people were ringing me and asking me about it, because I was quite happy disappearing off for a while. But I am more than happy and honoured and privileged and really, really, honestly excited to be back for 150 episodes of this let's be honest here, shambolic at times, probably legally admissible podcast. And well done everybody for somehow managing to keep it going in my absence. I promise you, I will never leave again.
You big fibber, but it is lovely to have you back. It really is nice.
You know what? I was really hoping someone would recognise the "Lost on the A Roads of France" comment. Do you remember our wonderful chairman Jeff Hulley? Back in the day when Radio Sheffield rang him up and said, Sheffield Wednesday are about to get wound up. They're on literally the steps of the Crown Court in London, and we're about to be cancelled. Like Seinfeld or Friends, we're about to just go out of business completely. And he said, I don't know anything about that. To be honest, I'm just driving back. I'm in France. I'm lost on an A road. That's kind of how I feel at the moment. But
if there's anybody that we can count on for a really, really super obscure Sheffield Wednesday reference, it's Eddie's back, gents. Oh, that's fantastic. Right, then, now, of course, it has been the international break, so we don't actually have a football match to speak about. So I apologise in advance, but because this is, to us, rather a special little show, we're going to have just a little bit of a gushing session, if you like. So I make no apologies for it, because
your dirty laugh.
We do like a bit of gushing.
There's always one, and it's always
James's little laugh there in the background. You got a cock and ball cake.
It just brings back memories of my last gushing session, to be fair.
Oh, God.
But no, we've been doing this a while now, and I just, because obviously way back when I was nothing but a young little lord and had basically no Twitter followers, anything at all like that, we sort of got in touch with a few of the chaps and see if we wanted to get a podcast. Now, obviously, some of the original guys are here at the moment. So just out of interest, first of all, Fudge, I mean, you were quite a big podcasting superstar before you started the Wednesday Week. Wait, Obi.
I don't know about that, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing podcasts because essentially when you're speaking to a lot of people via a microphone, they can't interrupt you, and I like the sound of my own voice, so it kind of fit with me really well.
Now, was it strange when a rather odd fake lord sort of popped out of the ether and asked you if you wanted to do a podcast with him?
Fake? What?
Fake? 150 episodes, and now we learn.
Are you telling us this now?
Don't, lads, honestly. You just wait until the interview we're about to play and it all comes crashing down for me. I swear to God.
Oh. So... yes, it was. It was weird. I remember you texting me. You sent me a message on Twitter because we were talking via the DMs on Twitter. He slid into my DMs, is what he did.
I actually had to ask for a follow first so I could actually slide into your DMs.
Yeah, slid into my DMs, and we only had 140 characters, and I remember it being really painful. And I think, what year was it? Was it 2011, 12?
2012.
11, I reckon. Maybe.
It was just as...
It wasn't quite promotion season, was
No.
it? It was the end of the season before promotion season.
Yeah, and we were actually struggling to talk about something positive, weren't we? And I think the first few shows were very much us going, do you remember the old days when we did this? Because the football was so bloody awful. and then all of a sudden Dave Jones turned up. We had a change in fortune, and I think the popularity of this podcast grew when the team play better, which we've all noticed. When we're doing well, more people listen. That type of thing, and that's what happened. I think we managed to tune in. Our timing was fortunate. Is that, if that's the right word?
I'm going to be honest with you. I started showing up when we started doing well, and you know what? Ironically, haven't been here this season so far. So make of that what you will.
Does that mean we're about to go on and run?
That's it. Wembley, lads.
Let's
we're
hope
there.
so.
Automatic. If he stays on for the rest of the season, we're flying.
If the only price of a promotion is that all of you have to listen to me every week, then hey, I'm willing to make that sacrifice.
Exactly. We've got Eddie.
Honestly, so thinking back to that first pitch that Lord H made to us, and he came. I think he came to Wednesday as an organisation and said, "Is there anyone there who is borderline borderline autistic? If that's possible, you've got someone who's a little bit off, and you just."
We put Dave Barlow forward first.
Yeah, we did. There was a test recording, and it was banned by the Geneva Convention as a war crime. So honestly, the Wednesday night board said, "Oh, Eddie, you're into the youth culture. You should probably do that." And so I thought I'll have a listen. And see what the pitch is. And so Lord H had said, "I've got this lad Fudge. He's big into his podcast. Just check him out. Have a listen to what he does." As far as I could tell, all he did was parody songs about the 1980s and 1990s growing up. And I was like, honestly, that'll do me. I was sold at the instant I YouTubed. We grew up in the 90s from, what's it called? Was it called the Fudge and Dave
Fudge
podcast?
and Dave, the Unnamed Project, yeah.
Amazing. Right, if you never ever want to go back and see how the genesis of the Fudge, go back there and that song was amazing. I still sing that to myself in the shower.
I'll tweet it out now. I will
do that. Yeah, tweet that out.
We grew up in the 90s. Onto the world once more.
Just to correct you, Eddie, about the Wednesday night thing, I'm not sure the word culture was the word we used.
Yeah, so it was those early days. We were kind of feeling ourselves out, feeling each other out. That sounds wrong as well, but it really was. With the three of us, and of course some like random grandad tramp who turned up on the first episode. I don't know how he got involved, but it turned out that he knew a bit about football, and so we all kind of, we fell in together as a funny odd couple, like kind of steptoe and son and son and son. It's kind of how I viewed it in the early days.
And we sort of struggled on through, and we talk about some really, really, really terrible football. In fact, I've been listening back just recently to grab some more clips and things. And would you like to hazard a guess at the first game that we actually reviewed on the very first pilot episode?
Yeovil at home.
Not far off.
Yeovil away.
Colchester United.
It was Colchester United. Very well done, James.
No.
Honestly, that was a guess. Genuinely, that was a guess.
But no, absolutely.
And you know what? It wasn't a good. That wasn't a good thing, was it? Did we go down there and lose 3-1, and they were like third in the league, and we were 13th or some rubbish like that?
Yep, exactly that. We'd lost to Colchester, and that was the way we started the podcast, and that's the way sort of things carried on from then. Of course, we did have some wonderful chaps come along and help us, and basically turn this into a slightly more professional job when Lord H had a little tweet from a Mr. Marriott saying, "Oh, hello there, sir. I very much enjoy your podcast and would like to get involved." And I must admit, we get a few tweets like that every now and again. But then when you sort of click on James's Twitter thing and it says radio professional, well, Chuff, yes, of course you can come and help us, Albin. It'd be an absolute pleasure to have you. Jamesy, Albin, this is the man that's actually changed the fortunes of the Wednesday Week podcast.
I'm not sure about that. I'm also not sure that my Twitter says radio professional. Don't mind Fudge just sneezing in the background there.
I'm snorting away.
I thought it was Steve. I'm also not sure that that's quite how it happened, because I don't think I'd actually listened to your podcast before I was on it, to be honest.
I was going to say, James does not come across the type of person to slide into the DMs and go, "I really enjoy your podcast and I'd love to be a part of it."
Yeah. I don't know how it came. It was some kind of Twitter bants, wasn't it? That's all we need to know. And the rest of it's history, isn't it?
Absolutely. And,
can I tell you my proudest point while I've been on the podcast was correctly guessing Colchester United as the first game that you talked about. I'm really proud of that, because it was genuinely a guess. I'm quite proud.
And he hadn't listened. He had no idea. He had no idea who we were, what we were doing. I'm pretty sure that James just rocked up one day on Twitter and went, "This podcast isn't as good as it would be if I was on it." And we just went, "Yeah, fair enough."
To be fair, he wasn't wrong either. That's the thing.
No, absolutely.
Once James had come along, Eddie, you invited a guest on the podcast, and do you know sometimes when you invite a guest to the house and they just won't chuff in leave? Well, you invited Victoria onto the podcast, didn't you? And Victoria's first episode was as a guest of Eddie. Then Eddie chuffed off and left Victoria with us. And you're still here now, aren't you, my darling? What a pleasure it is for you to officially break the sausage.
Yeah, I believe his exact words were, "We've got too many blokes on this. We need a bird, and not just like a proper bird, like who knows about football." I was like, "Oh, cheers, Ed. Yeah, all right."
A bloke with boobs, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, hang on.
Yeah.
Hang on. I think what I said in our private conversation was...
I'd love to find it now. But it'll have been a text, won't it? So I won't still have it.
I think it was my close personal friend Victoria. She's an absolute worldie and also knows more about football than any of us. I think that's probably word for word what I said. And I will stand by that in court.
I'm going to find it.
What are we talking about? Are we still recording?
Unfortunately. And finally, of course, Mr. Dickie Owl. Now, originally, the actual contact through Wednesday, it was me asking Dickie to come on the podcast. And to be perfectly frank, you utterly refused, didn't you, Dickie Holbein?
Yeah, I did. I couldn't be asked. Yeah, I was like, I don't do stuff like that. No, I don't.
Hang on. I was second choice.
I did. To be honest, Eddie, and I don't mean this in the way that it's intended. I did not know you existed at all. My only contact with Wednesday at that point was.
We've only just realised he still does.
It's all coming out now.
Sorry, Eddie. Can't turn it off.
This is like an episode of This Is Your Life that's gone really, really wrong.
It's like one of those episodes of Friends, isn't it, where all they do is play replays of stuff. Hold on, I found the original message, Edward. Well, I can't find what you've said. I just sent you a message saying, "Go on then, how's it work?" And you said, "We record a Skype group chat. It's dead easy. We can just add you into the recording. You don't even have to get out of your boozing chair." And I said, "I won't be drunk. Are you on G-chat?" And you said, "I don't have a couple of glasses. I'm always half cut when we record." 9 p.m. It was.
There you go.
It was meant to be Monday this week, but Fudge had to go to work. And then I said, "Oh, I can't make that one." You put, "No, especially since G-chat sounds like MSN circa 2004. ASL, what a cyber."
Oh, right, there you go. If there's a conversation that sums up all of my interactions with females, there you go. You got it. ASL, what a cyber.
It only took you 4 years, didn't it, to get me?
Absolutely.
I was playing hard to get.
And I mean, you may or may not be aware that for quite some time we had a rather strange little man hidden away in the background, not actually speaking, but just listening into the podcast like some kind of odd voyeur, which was Dickie Owl.
Yeah, until you announced me one day, and it was like, "Oh shit!" I'm doing it as well.
That's what we do.
What was the reason behind that, Dickie?
It's exactly what you did.
Well, we used him, didn't we? We said, "Oh yeah, if you want to do our social media, that's great. Of course, we'll promote your new company." And then we were kind of like, "Actually, we need someone on the podcast this week. Sorry, you're on. Bye." And that was it. We kind of just threw you into the fire, didn't we?
That was about it.
I think the term "fudge at to work" is something that ran through. I mean, I remember there was one that I did because you guys all had 9 to 5 normal jobs. Do you know what I mean? You all had and I was DJing, or I had a restaurant or a nightclub, and I think I've had about 6 jobs since I've done this show. But there was one specifically.
I think that's half the amount of jobs, Fudge.
There was one specifically that I did from a Wetherspoons. I was in Wetherspoons in Guildford, and I was wankered. And I just did it with the phone to my ear, or I'd do it in a fire escape. I used to do it in the fire escape in Guildford, didn't I? Yeah.
Every time. The number of times that we would be recording and Fudge, there'd basically be Fudge with an echo machine on because he was stood in a fire escape, or like a fridge or something like that. And then in the background, there'd just be this 4 to the floor dance beat.
Yeah.
A bit of high energy.
Yeah, I was supposed to be DJ.
In the back. Yeah. You just put it on autoplay. You just lined it up. I will play it out.
I did one of the podcasts from France, if you remember. I did France. I done Norfolk, Hallam FC last week.
My favourite has to be when I did mine from the tram, and that's when Fudge got his 10th red card of the season. So I was quite out of all the times to try and keep a straight face on public transport at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, with people staring at you anyway, because I've been to the theatre and I was a little bit drunk, was pissing myself laughing to, oh my God, Fudge, you just said Fudge. And everyone was like, what the hell? And I had to get off at I think it was Bamford Street and walk the rest of the way home because I was so mortified by the people staring at me on the tram. And at that time, there were a lot of drunks on the tram and a lot of weird people. And I was the one weird person that had to get off. So what does that tell you?
I did one in Belfast once, which isn't very interesting. But I also did one in the Bath, and I didn't tell you any of you about it at the time. I don't think I've told any of you about it since. So this is the first any of you have learnt that.
No, I feel dirty.
There was a bit of matey in it though, so it was all right.
I feel dirtier than when you wore a bikini. or when I had to buy the bikini because you refused to buy it for yourself. What a great holiday.
Now, there is one chap that obviously isn't with us this evening. Unfortunately, he couldn't be with us this evening. One of the original, obviously, weekers. And we, myself and Fudge, managed to get a little chat with him throughout the week. So we're going to play this out, and then we're going to come back. Right then, ladies and gents, I'm joined by Fudgy first of all. Fudgy, we did discuss that we needed a rather special marquee super signing. So, if you could have your pick of anybody to speak to from the Sheffield Wednesday world, who would it be, Fudgy?
Oh, it'd be like David Hurst or Chris Waddler, something like that. What do you
bigger.
Bigger than David Hurst and Chris Waddler.
Super fan.
What about like the chairman then? Do you reckon we can get him on? Ask him about the kit and the stripes. Christ almighty! Like, God, I couldn't even think. Like Gary Megson or Don Megson, Terry Fantham, whatever his bloody name is, Terry Curran. Well, you know what I mean? What?
You're getting to the ballpark. You're getting to the ballpark, Fudgy. I've got rather a surprise for you, Obbin. We only have absolute Sheffield Wednesday social media legend, Mr. Steve the Beastie.
Shut the front door.
Beastie, Obbin, how the chuff are you?
I told you this would go well. I told you right from the start. You all said no.
We were all slagging it.
You were all slagging it off, and I said the podcast is the future. 850, no bother at all.
You might notice, ladies and gents, that obviously our normal recording sound has changed ever so slightly because the wonderful new system that we use to record podcasts apparently doesn't work when Beastie plays with it. So it's fine, but we've gone back to good old-fashioned Skype.
That's like most things, to be fair.
I've got to remind everybody as well that there was one point today where we've been trying to get this bit of audio put together for everybody, and we couldn't manage it, and we couldn't hear each other. But then Beastie took his slippers off, and all of a sudden we could hear each other. So, forget your system restore, forget your boot up discs. It's all about taking your house shoes off.
Now, when you ring up the complaints desk and they say, "Have you tried turning it off and turning it on again?" Never mind that. Take your slippers off.
Take your slippers off.
There'll be Anthony in Mumbai saying, "Have you tried taking your slippers off?"
Ladies and gents, of course, Mr. Beastie, absolute legend of the Wednesday Week podcast, and it is such a pleasure to speak. How the chuff are you, Obi? What are you up to these days? We've been missing you, oh boy.
You've been missing me. You locked me in a chuffy shed.
Yeah, I think the last thing we did was lock him in a shed, weren't we? Isn't that what we did?
Well, we sort of locked him in the shed and then put him out of his misery, if I remember rightly.
You say we. Really, it was basically you, Lord Hillsborough. You.
Yeah.
Well, once something's got past its prime, I like to have shiny new things around me, Beastie, and the only thing that's sort of shiny about you these days is your forehead. But we have missed you terribly.
Don't you badmouth my shiny forehead.
Right.
Obviously, when we were speaking last, Beastie, your football tank was rather empty after a few seasons with Stuart Vanilla. Are you back at the games now, Obi?
I only took about 2 months out, and that was it. I missed about a dozen games, something like that.
Couldn't stay away.
Well, I mean, when money's tight, you have to contemplate what you're going to spend that money on. And going to see Stuart Vanilla's side every week was low down on the list.
it has to be said, many congratulations, Aaron Shaw, because obviously since we last spoke, you've also retired, haven't you, Holbein?
I have retired, and I have found out that I have got a natural flair for doing chuff all. Who knew that I had that gift tucked away somewhere?
We have noticed, Holbein. It's been an absolute pleasure. Fudgy, oh boy, obviously Beastie is a legend. I mean, we've had some classic clips put out this week, haven't we? From the podcast.
Yeah.
Do you have a favourite Beastie clip?
It's got to be fruit bag. I can't.
That ball that Antonio put in was just. I dropped my fruit bag. It was that good. It was just absolutely stunning.
Who's the company here? Who's the southerner?
I dropped my fruit bag.
Your fruit bag? Is that code for your pasty and your bovary? I think if you listen back to that clip, there's a bit on it where I say to him, that's now going to be a term that everybody uses to describe absolute euphoria. I nearly dropped my fruit bag. You know what I mean? And it is. It's just like, and we still get tweets for it now, Steve. We still get tweets saying, that thunder chuffer nearly made me drop my fruit bag. It makes me smile every time. But like Lord H said, when you were when we last spoke to you, you were done. You were done with football, and like you say, Stuart Villa's style of football was pissing you off, for lack of a better term. But what do you think now? I mean, since we've had a new chairman, we've had countless new kits. If they turn up, we've had a plethora of players, and I keep hopping back, and I'm boring people with it now. I keep saying that you said a few years ago, Lewis McGugan was a cut above that day, and he needs to be the bare minimum. I still say it now, and you are right. And we've built on players. Well, have we? I'm asking you, have we taken that forward?
Oh, let's be right. The players we've got now are far, far better than the players that we had under Stuart Vanilla. And I know at this moment in time, all the there's a big divide amongst our fans at the moment, isn't there? There's the lovers and the haters. And it drives me to despair that we are like this at the moment, because this club has not been in as good a position as it's been for years and years, decades even. Yeah. And now we're still moaning about it. It's almost like Wednesday fans were born to moan. We're only happy when we're moaning. And look at what we've got. These players are miles better than anything we've seen since the 90s, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know if you chaps remember, but obviously way back then we did a little sketch at the beginning of one of the shows where Dave Jones, in inverted bunny rabbit ears, called out a register at the beginning of the sketch, and everybody said hello in their native tongue. And the names it was calling out were names like Bothroyd and Danny Mayer and players like that. And when I listened
Danny Mayer, I forgot he was a thing. I forgot he existed.
And when just listening to that and listening to the players, and don't get me wrong, for getting out of League One and doing the job that they did, and to be fair to Mr. Vanilla, he did do a decent job with the players that he had at that time.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
He had no choice than to defend.
He didn't do a good job with them players. He did a chuffing bang average job. Everything he does is bang average. I'm telling you now, when he's in bed with his wife, he finishes halfway through and says, you know what? Let's call it a day. That's good enough for me. That's good enough for me.
But no, you're right. I mean, we do get sort of. It reminds me of being a spoiled child being Wednesday night, because the more you got, the more you want. And of course, we want Wednesdays to. We want them back in the Premiership. We want to be playing in Europe again. We want to be doing all those things that we've seen our football club do before. And I think that's why we get frustrated. Obviously, not a massively football orientated show, this one, but when we played Villa, watching that football was wonderful, wasn't it? And if we had that every week, would we moan as much, do you think? Or, Beastie, do you think we'd find something else to moan about?
We'll always find something to moan about. As I said, we love to moan. But I must be watching different games to other people. And don't get me wrong, I'm on board with fans being able to voice their opinions. If you're not happy with something, you should feel free to vent your spleen. We all like to do that when things have been going wrong. But I think the only thing that's gone wrong with some of the games is the end result. And now other people might say, well, that's all that matters. But I don't think we've had the results that our football's deserved a lot of the times. Sunderland, I thought we played them off the park, and I think we deserved to win that game. Same with QPR. I think we deserved to win that game. Barnsley, I think we deserved to win that game.
I've got to ask you, Steve, because it's been a while since we last spoken. The Ati-New question is always a big one. So we used to talk about Ati a lot, about how he did something for the team that some of the other players don't. He's in that holding the ball up and running that last 10 minutes out and that sort of thing. Do you think he's still got a place in the team, or are you still in the Lord Hillsborough camp that you still think he's got a job that he can do?
I've never liked him. I think it were you lot that always liked him.
Yeah, us lot were praising him.
Yeah, you lot were praising him, and I think you'll find that I said as soon as we get somebody half decent, that'll be it. He'll be on bench, or he'll not even be mentioned. And that, if I'm being honest, he does do a certain type of job well, does Ati. But surely we've progressed from that kind of player now. We have to have moved on from Ati-New, surely.
See, I knew there was a reason we took Beastie out to the shed and shot him. It's because he nonsense statements like that.
Right, well let me ask you this then, Lord Hillsborough. Right. Would you drop Hooper for Ati?
In the last 10 minutes of the game, yes, I would.
Right, hang on, because that means he's going to be... Right. Would you drop Fletcher for Nuio?
In the last 10 minutes of the game, yes, I would.
Right.
To me,
so basically, you want him for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah,
a bit like Stuart in the bedroom.
That's what happens when Mr. Gray is tired for the last 10 minutes. Ati comes in and finishes the job. Mrs. Gray is a very happy lady. But yeah, I understand the team's moved on, and obviously when Ati first came along and we saw him score that goal against QPR, and we thought he was a world beast and all that kind of thing. He's not that striker. That's not his job for Sheffield Wednesday anymore. And to be honest, if you have a little look at just recently, obviously Ati hasn't been on the bench, and Wednesday haven't been doing terribly well. So,
whoa. We haven't been doing terribly well.
Not the beginning of the season, absolutely. It's taken a while for Ati to pass his knowledge onto Mr. Hooper in the dressing room and say, look,
Ati
has sat Mr. Hooper down and he said, now then, Gary. No, don't, Gary. Whoever speaks. Let me pass on my knowledge of how to be a striker to you. And that's how it's happened.
Back the chuff up, Sparky. I can't. Fudge dying.
Do the voice again. Do the voice.
We are not at the beginning of the chuffing season. Right? We've moved the chuff on.
Absolutely.
You want to keep this big lump on the bench for the last 10 minutes? For 10 minutes of football?
But what he does in that last 10 minutes, while we are protecting that lead, is amazing.
Yeah. You want... You won't swap him for Hooper, you won't swap him for Fletcher, you won't swap him for Rhodes, you won't swap him for Jow. How many strikers do you want on the chuffing bench just so that you can play Ati for 10 minutes?
I don't think we need anything else but strikers on the bench, do we, Beastie Old Bean? Maybe a full complement of strikers and Liam Palmer. That'd do me absolutely fine.
Chuff me sideways.
All right.
But Beastie, obviously one of the big questions, just to get your take on it, and it seems to have calmed down a bit now, obviously after the chairman's come out and made the statement. But are you still in the Carlos camp? Are you still happy with Mr. Carvalho doing what he's doing?
Again, it's another one that divides fans, and I've seen fans walking out past me on the way out 10 minutes before the end of the game, and they shout at him, and the things that they shout at him, like, take your hands out of your pockets, like that's suddenly the most important thing for a football manager is to have your hands out of your pockets.
He goes hands in his bins.
Take your slippers off.
Yeah.
When did that become the most important thing? To me, I think he's doing I think he's doing a reasonable job, and we can only judge him at the end of the season. And somebody sent me a post today saying we're 1 point behind where we've been for the last 2 years at this same spot in the season.
Yeah.
So he got us into the playoffs the last twice. So why aren't we going to give him the courtesy of getting us there?
I can tell you exactly the answer to that, Steve, and I'll tell you for why. Right, we finished in the playoffs the last 2 seasons. Yeah, he has not. We are not any better to what we were last season. Now, bear in mind, I think he's reached a level, if I'm honest, because bear in mind, this is the bloke who at Wembley, in our greatest day of club's history in recent years, should have been. He brought on Atinu and Jeremy Hallan to get promoted to the Premier League. So on 2 occasions in the playoffs, he's been outmanaged and he's been outthought and tactically behind twice. Do you know what I mean? And
I can't argue.
He's got a third bite of the cherry, which for me, playoffs aren't good enough because I don't have the confidence in Carlos to take us to another playoffs.
I can't argue with that. He has been found wanting in the playoffs. That, Wembley against Hull, that was our moment. That was our moment, and we just didn't rise to the occasion. We came out, and it was probably our worst performance of the season. If not, not far off.
Just didn't turn up.
Yeah, and then and what gets me is we were all there and giving it everything, and the players were there giving it nothing. But I think he has to be given the chance. What we could do is get into playoffs and then bring Dave Jones in.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Oh, Stuart Gray, just for the last 10 minutes.
No! If we bring Stuart Gray in for the playoff final, we'll finish 7th.
But I must admit, this has been amazing to have Beastie back on, and I do think that if Beastie's football tank is getting towards sort of half empty, then we should have Beastie on more. And if you want to hear from Beastie back on this podcast, pressure him into it. Everybody that wants to hear Beastie back on this podcast, send Beastie messages.
I'm old, you know.
Yeah, we know you're old, but you're like a vintage wine, Beastie.
Oh, it's vintage wine now, is it?
Once we've had a little taste, we keep coming back for more. Just ask Mrs. Gray.
Nobody locks the vintage wine in a shed for 5 years.
That's exactly what they do with it, Beast.
A chuffing potting shed. They put it in a wine cellar, not a chuffing potting shed.
You're like super vintage now, Beastie.
Yeah. I'm just pleased them terracotta pots have got a hole in the bottom. Otherwise, I'd have been stuck in there with nothing to do for 5 years.
But no, Beastie, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. And of course, you're welcome back whenever you want, Orbeen. This is obviously, I've been listening back to some of the old podcasts a lot just recently, just digging out these clips. And some of the, I must admit, the majority of the clips from the first sort of 20, 30 episodes, it's just Beastie being Beastie. It's hilarious, absolutely hilarious. We miss you, Beastie.
I have enjoyed this. It's great talking to you two again. It always was good because we were just 4 people who shared the same love for the same thing, chelping about it.
Yeah. Apart from the fact that us lot were slagging it off, but you were sticking up for it.
That's why it worked, because I was the one doing all the supporting, and you 3 were slaggers.
Oh, brilliant. Love it. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, Steve Beastie. Absolute gentleman. Thank you, Beastie. Right then, ladies and gents, there you go, Mr. Steve Mother Chuffing Beastie back in your ears again. Do you miss Beastie? Because we've been sticking out these clips for the last week of old Wednesday week episodes and bits and bobs, and to be honest, it's either me messing up, Fudge being Fudgy, Beastie just been hilarious, James and his marvellous brain working out wonderful little games and things for Mr. Greedo, or just phoning him and trying to whisper sweet nothings onto his answering machine service, etc. So it's if you do want Beastie back on the show, tweet him and chuff him, tell him so, because we'd love to have him back.
Whether you're celebrating a birthday, a wedding or anniversary, maybe you've passed your driving test, or you've landed a new job. Well, whatever your reason for a party, the Riverside Cafe is the perfect location on Catch Bar Lane overlooking Hillsborough Stadium. To inquire about hiring us for your function, call 07989 856 054 or 0114 232 6121.
Right, so of course, over the years we've done quite a lot of nonsense over the Wednesday week, but we have done some wonderfulness as well. So just to remind you of some of the wonderful people we've had on the podcast, have a little listen to this. We've only got Rita Johnson on the line with us. Hi there, Rita. How the devil are you?
Hello. You're right.
Rita.
Follow the reader, follow the reader.
It's a pleasure to be joined by Sheffield Wednesday legend Miguel Liera. How are you doing?
Yeah, hello, how are you?
James here. I'm very pleased to be joined by John Pearson, former Wednesday player, Wednesday legend. And I have to say, John, I kind of think of you a little bit like being the human equivalent of goal music, kind of the noise that I most associate with Wednesday scoring.
Well, I mean, I was born a Sheffield Wednesday supporter. I was born 200 yards away from the ground. I grew up in Hillsborough Park, and I'm lucky enough now to do the commentary for the home games for the internet, and also on occasions to do the away games for Radio Sheffield. So I'm really in a privileged position.
Bit of a surprise for you all. We've only gone and got Nigel Jemson on the line with us. Jemmo, how the devil are you, old boy?
Good, thanks. Not bad at all.
I'm talking to Phil King. Phil, I mean, first of all, your reaction to tonight. What a night.
Oh, amazing. Absolutely amazing. I think there was about 920 fans in the room, and this is the only venue big enough, and I think they probably could have sold it out 5 or 6 times over.
So, the Wednesday week are here at Owls in the Park. And we were just wandering around. We bumped into a guy that you might recognise. It's Barry Bannon. How you doing, Barry?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, really good, really good.
All disappeared for the moment, but we do have an incredibly special guest. Once again, we have Joe Cran, Twitter legend and Yorkshireman in South Africa. Joe, oh boy, how the devil are you?
How's it going? A special guest is high praise. I think just a normal Wednesday I'll do. I'm quite touched.
I think you're doing yourself down there, Joe, old boy.
It's James with Viv Anderson. I mean, Viv, what a night tonight's been.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to a few of these. I've been lucky enough to win a European Cup twice, and I don't think we've ever had 1,000 people in the room. So that tells you everything about the Sheffield Wednesday supporters.
We've only gone and got your lucky folks Tango. Hello there, Tango, old boy. How the devil are you?
Yeah, not too bad at all, thank you.
We are with actor extraordinaire Tommy Craig. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
We do have an extraordinarily special guest on the podcast this evening. Off at telly and everything. We have David Greeno. Hello there, David, old chap. How are you?
I'm very well, my lord. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a real pleasure.
Absolute pleasure to have you, old boy. In the biblical sense, of course.
Is this how it's going to be? Is this going to be like this all the way through?
Generally, yeah.
Okay, I'll strap myself in. In the biblical sense. Here we go. Right.
It's a pleasure to be with the man of the moment, the guy that won the game for us, John Sheridan. John, I'm guessing you've had a good night. You seem to have enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, it's been a great night. Obviously, it's for the supporters, and the turnout's unbelievable.
This week we've got a real treat for you, ladies and gents. We've only gone and got Lee Chuffing Peacock on the podcast with us.
Lee Chuffing Peacock?
Lee Mother Chuffing Peacock.
Kid up at Allenton, Scotland, so I was 12, but all I knew was Wednesday's a top level team, you know, and to be hopefully part of their first step and them going back that way was a real pleasure of mine, you know. It was a real highlight of my career.
A pleasure to be here with Roland Nielsen, and not just Roland Nielsen and the League Cup round his arms as we speak. Roland, what's it like being back here after 25 years?
No, it's absolutely great. It's very special.
Right, there you go. So we've had one or two fantastic interviewers. Maybe we've not been the best interviewers of the interviewees on there, but Jamesy Holbein, who was your favourite?
Oh, God, that's a good question. There's been some brilliant ones. The ones I actually enjoy the most are fans from around the world that have travelled to Hillsborough for a game. And there was, I think me and Vic actually interviewed some guys from Sweden that came over for a game. That was brilliant. But the thing that I enjoyed the most was the class of 91 reunion, which was brilliant because, you know, they're like, you know, they were genuine heroes for me when I was growing up. So the chance to, chase them around with a microphone and interview them. I'm not going to lie, John Sheridan being hammered was definitely the highlight, and possibly the highlight of my, professional broadcasting career was interviewing John Sheridan while he was absolutely paralytic,
and managing to get and edit out of it. Managed to edit that down to 30 seconds.
Speaking of paralytic, wasn't that the night that Dickie Owl passed out in Genting Casino?
Passed out. I was falling asleep. That's all. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. I was ginned up to the eyeballs, and I think I got the stink eye on, looking at you through one eye, and I was like, "It's probably time for me to go home now." I think.
It ended up just being a really weird like snuggle between me, James, and David Garrido in like a corner of the booth.
Still managed to win up a barbell of 300 quid on gin and tonic, didn't we?
Oh God, yeah, Cleggy, eat your heart out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, the night I got so excited of having John Sheridan's Rumbelows Cup final shirt and getting it signed, that then they had the blind auction for just random stuff, silent auction, and I thought, you know what? I want to show that we're willing on our table, that we're going to play the game. And so we looked through the catalogue, and there was quite a lot of stuff that that our son Tom would really have got into. So it was like Messi stuff, Ronaldo stuff, stuff from Brazil and Wayne Rooney and all this kind of thing. So he said, I said, what we'll do, we'll put in a bid, but we know what we're talking about. We'll just put in a bid that is £1 higher than the minimum bid. There's no way we're going to win this. We'd obviously underestimated quite how little the good people there at the 25th anniversary dinner were gonna bid on this, because about 20 minutes later, do you remember the lovely lady?
I remember the look on your face and your wife's face. Oh my God. I thought divorce was going to be filed for there and then.
Lent into my ear. She said, "Oh, great news! You've won the signed Lionel Messi shirt, and you've won the signed Ronaldo and Messi boots." I was like, "Oh, that's amazing! How much is that, please?" She said, "Yeah, no, that's 2,300."
Wow.
And my favourite thing was when I met Al, that was like one of my stories, because he listened to the podcast, so I told him about this one night that Eddie got really drunk and bidded on an auction, and then we went to your house and there's just Messi's boots like in the playroom, just because there's nowhere else for them to go.
I wasn't drinking because I was going on holiday straight after. I had to drive down to Gatwick straight after.
You were driving.
And you said, "Can I get a lift to the hotel?" Yeah, of course. I said, "Jump in." And your missus carrying this bloody great framed thing like a sail, and I had this crap little Peugeot. I had all my gear in it. I couldn't get anything in. Like, you know what I mean? I'd have been better off with a roof rack.
So this thing, they'd framed it up, and it was like boots inside, but it was about like 4 foot by 5 foot by
enormous.
4 foot. And it stuck out about 2 feet because they're protecting the boots with a PVC frame. Unbelievable. Best night of my life.
That was also the night where someone, purely in passing, accidentally mistook me for Dom Howson. Purely in passing, somehow or another.
That's when it all started.
18 months later, and it's still going on. And I blame you lot.
Because it's still chuffing funny.
To the point where I was in the Star offices and I saw Dom Howson and I went up to him and went, "James!" And he found it really funny.
What we should do, if we're talking about great interviews and stuff like that, do you remember 2 of the best interviews we ever had was Dom Howson and Nigel Jemison? If we could get Dom to interview Nigel, that would possibly be the ultimate interview that we could ever have done.
The lowest listened to podcast ever.
I tell you what, we had on Raider Johnson. And I remember we had Raider on, and he was so candid, and I think he spoke so well, and he had that beautiful French twang to his accent, and he made Wolverhampton sound sexy. Do you remember Wolverhampton? You know what I mean? I thought, yeah. That was one of my favourites. That one. And then David Garrido, and listening to James Squirm telling him about why he tried calling him about 9:30 at night after they'd spent all day together. That was genuinely really funny.
About his biscuit.
I'd fallen off the wall of the garage. Look, I don't know what happened, right? I don't know what happened. I was on a wall. The next thing, I was in the forecourt of a garage These things just happen.
Do you know what, though, guys? I have to say, one of my favourite interviews we've ever had was James Kay.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Wasn't he amazing?
I really think that was such a good show. Like normally, we'll get someone on, won't we, for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, something like that. But we just kept him on for the whole show because he was so interesting and just such an insight that you don't see into football.
Yeah, not only being really candid about the experience of being a footballer that you know, and with no disrespect, that didn't make it to the level that he probably could have done, and understanding, helping us as fans understand that process of going through a career that doesn't end up in fame and fortune to the extent that every kid dreams of. But also, he then just like sat as a fan and gave us his opinion on what Wednesday were doing, how things were going, what he would do tactically. It was brilliant. That was, you know, to be honest, I would quite happily stand aside, or any of us stand aside, and just get James Kay in permanently, because he was unbelievable.
I have two favourite bits after that interview. So the first one was when I told my dad, and I said, "Oh, Dad, you're going to have to listen to the podcast this week." So he can't work it in his car. He don't know how to do it. I said, "You're going to have to listen because your favourite James Kay is on." Because when we used to go and watch the academy a lot, when I went out with an academy player, he was like my dad's, like apple of my dad's eye. He thought it was amazing. Played the same position as my dad and all that. And he went, "Oh, bloody hell. He said, signed for Sheffield FC, sent off within 30 seconds. I've fallen out with him now. I've had enough." And I was like, "Oh, fair enough, okay." And then my second favourite moment came when James Kay needed a shirt to wear to Wembley. James.
That is such a bad flashback, that. Yeah. It's so. I still now, I'm so embarrassed about it. So he borrowed the shirt. There was no problem there. But, I mean, obviously, you know, playoff final, Wembley Day, it was a day of, you know, quite a lot of beer was consumed before even getting anywhere near Wembley. And I don't know if you guys remember me telling you about it at the time, but basically in the fan park, I got a beer and I saw James Kay in my Wednesday 91 shirt. So I thought, oh, I'll go and say hello. So I walked over and waved at him. And as I got closer to him, I was like, oh, bollocks, that's not James Kay. But I'd already waved, so I've got to see. So I went over to him and just said, "I'm really sorry. You're not who I thought you were, but do you mind? Can I just talk to you for a minute? And then my friends won't realise what I've done." And he was like, "Yeah, sure." So I went, "Oh, that's really nice of you. Thank you. It's a lovely, lovely shirt you're wearing there. All right, cheers, thank you. All right, see you later. Bye."
And then did you fall off a wall and drunk dial him afterwards?
Something like that.
James has put in a few complaints about James. I'm not going to lie. But that day as well, guys, wasn't that the first day that everybody was together in one space at one time as well? Because we had the killer whale. And didn't... Fudge, were you there?
Yeah, I was there.
We were all there, weren't we? Like, everybody. It was so nice to, like... Because we'd all met each other, like, individually. Like, I've known Eddie and... what's his name? Dickie.
Hello, yeah.
Since I was
hello.
Since like a teenager, like a mid-teenager. But actually to get everybody together was so nice with that killer whale.
Absolutely. Introducing the Wednesday week's greatest Pull Down Your Chance hits album. All of your favourite hits from the last 5.5 years, including songs for Mr. Ryan Lowe.
I love Ryan Lowe. Come on, Wednesday action, bounce with me.
Barcelona Pista Runnery. The Portuguese contingent.
I've got my red and green flag up, I'm sipping on a super bug. I'm turning Portuguese, I think I'm turning Portuguese, I really think so. I'm turning Portuguese, I think I'm turning Portuguese, I really think so.
It's Super Block O'Clock, the man that counts us all down.
Here's a little song I wrote about an oversized Austrian bloke. Don't worry, here's Atty. Don't worry, be Atty now.
Future Sheffield Wednesday legend.
Palace let him go. They must have had their reasons, but now they're thinking, don't! Cause for 16 years we've been looking for a player like Barry Chuffing Bannon.
When it's time to slow it down, who better to put their foot on the ball than Chrissy Lyons?
That you can't deny.
Did the message get through? Let's see.
Oh, Fernando, why don't you come to your senses? How do you wanna be remembered when your football is done? Or you could become true Wednesday legend in the same sentence. Hurst and Sheridan
and the crazy man himself.
Never beat Stevie by water. He will lay you out. He will lay you out.
The Wednesday Week Greatest Hits Pull Down Your Chance album, available wherever you can buy ridiculous comedy albums. Or maybe not comedy, depending on your view.
One owl on my shirt, run below, still gleaming. 15 years at her, never stopped me dreaming. One owl on my shirt.
Right, then, ladies and gents, Vic is here with me. Victoria, my darling.
Hello, my lord.
How the devil are you?
I'm all right, thank you.
Fantastic. Now, of course, we've had one super special guest that was quite big, but then we need another super special guest. Now, of course, when you think about your era, Vic, because you're a little bit younger than I am. Obviously,
Slightly.
you're just slightly. Your footballing heroes. Who were your footballing heroes?
Well, obviously, it's got to be Benny Carboni, Andy Pearce. I was in love with Andy Pearce. And thanks to the podcast, he now follows me on Twitter, which is quite amazing. And, you know, there are so many people like, I don't know, Emerson Tom obviously sticks out. But there's one big guy that I still get excited about to this very day.
Well, that's the thing. It's weird because, I mean, my era, I was more of a Chris Waddle, David Hurst, it's a sort of era as well, and obviously managers have changed and players have changed, but there is one incredibly special chap that's always been there.
There's one constant, isn't there?
There is one constant. Would you like to do the honours, Victoria?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to welcome Mr. OZZIE Owl to the show.
Mr. OZZIE Mother Chuffing Owl, how good should... And this is, I mean, obviously, we have done interviews in inverted bunny rabbit ears with OZZIE before, but this is the genuine OZZIE. OZZIE, being how the chuff are you?
I'm very good. Are you?
I'm very, very well, thank you. And it's so nice to hear you speak, OZZIE, old boy, because usually you're quite a quiet chap, aren't you?
Yeah, it's been a while since I've spoken. I lost my voice a few years ago, but I seem to have found it again now.
It's all those mental pies. It's been fantastic. OZZIE, obviously, as we said earlier, you've been around the club essentially forever, haven't you? Obviously, managers have come and gone, players have come and gone, owners have come and gone, but you've always been there, old boy. You must have seen some big old changes at Hillsborough.
Oh, just a bit. I remember a certain member of the team working at Wednesday when I started.
Yeah, no, back in the day, So how long, obviously, OZZIE, have you been your current form, so to speak? How long have you been OZZIE Owl?
It's a bit like Doctor Who. It's been regenerations. This regeneration of OZZIE has been around since 98-99 season.
My goodness. So you were the OZZIE Owl that I used to run up to and get autographs and photographs with. I just think that's amazing. Like, just amazing.
It's also slightly scary, surely.
Imagine a little Vic running around with their autograph book. That's fantastic. I love it.
I once got Nicholas Alexanderson's in Tesco, I'll have you know.
I can't compete with that.
Now, we do have to ask some rather hard-hitting questions because, obviously, we've got the term legend gets bandied about so much, but this is a true Wednesday legend. So, hard-hitting question number one, OZZIE. Puff, flaky, rough, phyllo. What is the best pastry for a pie?
Oh.
Oh. Oh.
I'm going to have to say puff.
You're going to have to say puff.
Just because I wanted to say the word.
It's a very nice word to say, especially in your wonderful tones, Ozzy. And when it comes to the pies at Hillsborough, is there a difference between the pies in the North Stand and the pies in the South Stand and the pies in the Cop? I'm assuming that you've sampled them all on a daily basis.
Of course I've sampled them all. It's part of my main job is checking all the pies in the ground before everybody else eats them. So every single pie that gets eaten, I've already tested.
Does that help with the thrusting movements, Ozzy? I mean, is that what we all need to do to get that Aussie thrust? Do we need to eat more pie?
It certainly does help, yes. You need the bulk around the midriff, shall we say.
And, I mean, when it comes to the Aussie thrust, is that something, because we've not seen it for a while, is that something that you're allowed to do still? Or, I mean, is there certain rules that are set down for an Aussie owl to keep up decency?
I've never been subject to any rules before, so I don't see why I should now.
Well, we know...
Thrust away, Ozzy.
We know that you're a bit of a tearaway, Ozzy, and I've got a little bit of audio, and I must admit, it's not fantastic audio, but I'm going to try and play it now, and then let's have a little chat about this show.
It's the Sheffield Wednesday mascots, Barney and Ozzy. And look what they've done to ESPN FA Cup mascot Fudge. That is an unprovoked attack. They're claiming he was very affectionate, all in the spirit of the FA Cup. But it took Fudge an awful long time to get up. Certainly a yellow card.
Now, Mr. Owl, when we had the visit of the FA Cup mascot to Hillsborough, you and Barney were rather naughty, weren't you? To explain the situation, if people haven't seen it, which I'm sure they probably have, a rather naughty Aussie crept behind the FA Cup and bent over, and a rather naughty Barney pushed him over, a rather naughty Aussie on the floor. Now, was this a provoked attack, Aussie? Because that made it sound unprovoked, and I don't think you're that kind of chap, Aussie, old boy.
No, it was all very friendly. It was more like a welcome to Hillsborough. It wasn't meant to be vicious at all, no.
Is that what James has told you? Because James does fall over a lot at Hillsborough, but it's not because he's trying to be welcoming, it's because he's a little bit squiffy.
Yes, I have met James a few times, and yes, I can confirm that he is usually quite squiffy, yes.
Now, Ozzy, I've got to ask you here. A few years ago, back when I was at Hillsborough, we had the Cardiff game, and your famous, is it daughter, Ollie, came back to life? And I may or may not know whom was playing Ollie that day. But I seem to remember a certain Michael Gray trying to shake Ollie's hand, while a certain Mr. Jermaine Johnson knelt down behind, and Ollie had to hold on to her head. But did you copy Ollie for that move?
As always, I'm the originator, never the copier.
Well, let me tell you, it hurts to fall over in one of those as Ollie Owl. Trust me.
Is that your friend telling you that?
Yeah. Same friend that dressed up as, acted as Barney Owl one day on Look North and got legged up by a giant sausage. There were a lot of things that my friend had to do during their time at Hillsborough. Some of them great, some of them painful.
Let's face it, Victoria, that's not the first time you've been legged up by a giant sausage.
It's true.
Fantastic. But Ozzy, obviously, when it comes to your job and what you, I mean, everybody loves Aussie Owl. Anybody that doesn't quite simply needs their head testing. But obviously, the kids absolutely adore you. I was a young boy once, and I ran around after Aussie Owl. Obviously, slightly maybe before your tenure. Obviously, we had Aussie in his red cap at Hillsborough and all that kind of thing as well. What is the best part of being Aussie Owl? Is it watching the football? Is it meeting the fans? Is it getting to thrust away as much as you like? Is it eating the pies? What's your favourite thing about being Aussie?
Oh, my favourite thing is meeting the kids, seeing their faces when Aussie walks up. When I walk up, so Aussie, I'm talking about myself in the third party, then that's a bit odd.
That's what all the celebs do. Yeah.
When you walk up to them and they see you, and the look on their little faces and the smiles, it makes it all worthwhile.
And is that more often than not? Because obviously there are some children that might think an 8-foot owl with a rather large bulbous head walking towards them could be quite frightening. Does that happen very often?
Yeah, there's one of two reactions. You either get the beaming smile or you get the screaming and running away in tears.
I think it's absolutely fantastic, and obviously you and Barney do a fantastic job. And I think you were one of the original proper mascots at a football club. Am I right in saying that? Because there's been a lot of copies.
The originals were myself and I believe it's I can't remember his name, but the one from Aston Villa. Or it might even be Birmingham.
I
can't remember which way around it is, but
yes.
It was after the 1966 World Cup. And the year after that, Ozzy and the other one, I can't remember his name. I think it's Bo Brumley, so I think it is Birmingham. Were introduced in '67.
Does that make you 50 then, Ozzy? Are you officially 50 this year?
Indeed, yes.
Oh, happy birthday! See, the club's just overshadowed you with its 150th, hasn't it? It's your 50th. You should get a giant cake.
Oh, yes, please. No, giant pie instead.
A giant pie ball. Oh, that's something that the chefs at Hillsborough could come up with. That's amazing. I do hope I can thrust as well as you at 50, Ozzy. That's fantastic. I love it.
I've got visions now.
And obviously, while he's not here, is there any dirt you can dish on Barney? Because he's a little bit more quiet than you, maybe. Does he have any particular bad habits? Anything at all like that?
Apart from his strange musical tastes, there's not a huge amount. He's always wanted to be a member of Steps for some reason.
Was he rather happy when Mr. Reach came? I should imagine that that song got played rather a lot when Mr. Reach came.
He's had it on repeat on his iPod ever since.
I'm going to get a little bit gushy now, Ozzy, and I apologise, because when Lord Hillsborough first came to Twitty, I mean, obviously, it's rather odd this, because, to be fair, Victoria is like the only real person here, and we've got essentially two fictional characters speaking to each other. But when Lord Hillsborough first came... When Lord Hillsborough first came to Twitter, obviously I started with my normal nonsense. And as I'm sure you can imagine, when there's a rather strange lord knocking about on Twitter, not many people take you very seriously. But one of the people that absolutely sort of joined in with my nonsense was OZZIE Owl. And I cannot thank you enough for that, Ozzy. And then once the actual podcast started, and obviously... we're here to celebrate our 150th podcast. Once the actual podcast started, you were so kind in helping us sort of get the word out there and retweeting and those sorts of things. So I genuinely do want to thank you for that, because without you helping us, we probably wouldn't have got to 150. In fact, there probably wouldn't be a podcast in the first place. So we really, really do thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Ozzy, can I ask for one last thing before you go? Could you sing us the chorus of Hi Ho Silver Lining?
No, nobody needs to hear me sing. Really.
Oh, come on, it sounds beautiful with your little voice.
And it's hi ho, Sheffield Wednesday. What happened?
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. OZZIE Owl. Thank you so much, Ozzy. Oh boy, what an absolute treat.
Thank you.
And happy birthday, Ozzy.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Right then, ladies and gents, so that's enough gushing for now. But we do really need to speak about a little bit of football, because apparently we are a Sheffield Wednesday football podcast. Up and coming, we have the Bristol game. Fudge, are you going to tell me off for calling them Bristol and not using their full name, as usual, Obi?
Every single time. They don't call us Sheffield, do they? Come on now.
Well, they do a lot of the time.
Yeah, they all do. But, you know, if they're referring to us as Sheffield, you know, that means there's only one team in Sheffield as far as they're concerned. So, you know, I'm happy with that. I'm all right. But is anybody else popping the pants about this game? Is anybody else concerned?
The only thing I'm worried about, right, is that this season, Bristol City have kind of become my second team, just because I love their GIFs. Whenever they score on Twitter, they're like my favourite thing on a Saturday afternoon.
They are pretty cool.
And so I always, Every single game, I'm willing them to score just because I want to see like someone swinging a fire extinguisher around or DJing on plates. And this week, I don't want them to, but I kind of still do because I just love it. I do. But I'm going to get over it for just this weekend, and then that's it. I'm back to being a Bristol City second fan again. But it just makes me so happy. I wish we'd do that. Wouldn't you love to see Barry Bannon swinging a fire extinguisher around whenever he scored?
Can you imagine the meltdown on Owls Talk if we did a goal celebration gif? What the bloody hell? Bloody rubbish is this bloody rubbish?
It's them Wednesday week morons. That's what they'd say.
It's them again, isn't it?
They'd have to do a Football Heaven special, wouldn't they? Like Monday night, Jonathan Booker would be like, and we've got 250 callers complaining about the Sheffield Wednesday goal graphics on Twitter.
If you do want to look at an ex-Sheffield Wednesday player doing these, I did notice that Bolton have taken on this mantle as well, and Mr. Medine scored the other day, didn't he? Did you?
Does he just walk up and blast somebody?
Whenever he's got, he punches a horse.
He punches a horse.
Gary Medina scored. Bash. Horse gets punched.
He actually takes a goal swing just so he don't get sued. All that is allegedly, of course. But again, as a little bit of Wednesday news,
a goal swing at somebody's chin.
Of course, Mr. Bedeen has been in trouble again this week, hasn't he? Sort of ploughing that in just a little bit. So, Gary, just behave yourself, Gary, or being for Christ's sake.
Gary, put down your pint, lad.
Going back to Bristol City, as Vic says, obviously they've been going quite good guns, and they've managed to build up a bit of a run before we play them as well, before the international break. But do you think we're going to see the Wednesday? Because whenever we're playing anybody above us, we seem to play rather well, as we did, of course, again.
I still think this is a bit of a common fallacy, this thing about the fact that we play better when we play teams above ourselves, because we've lost to more of them than we've beaten this season. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a right old test, and it's probably not the game that you would choose to play out coming out of an international break. But saying that, we wouldn't have picked Villa as the game to play going into an international break, to be fair. So it's kind of it feels a little bit like a make or break game in terms of the fact that Villa could have been now the point that our season turns round, but it could be another false dawn. And depending what happens on Saturday against Bristol City will really kind of define whether or not our season is genuinely up and running, or looks like it's genuinely up and running, or whether we're just kind of going to pretty much stutter through the whole season, kind of winning the odd game here and there, slightly against the odds, and then not really putting together much of a run. Because we've talked, haven't we, about the fact that it's consistency that's been our real downfall this season. And getting a third win on the trot for, I think it'd be the first time this season, wouldn't it, where we've won 3 in a row, would be huge. And I think there would genuinely be a kind of a positive feeling in the air off the back of it. So it does feel like a really important game, but it's certainly not going to be an easy one. They're in good form, but we know we can beat them because we did it last season, and you never know. Maybe we'll leave it till the 98th minute again to get a winner. That'd be all right.
So I know I've not been around, and part of the reason of that is because Wednesday haven't had like a 3 p.m. Saturday kickoff since God were a lad. So I've missed quite a bit of what Wednesday were doing. I've had to catch it on iFollow and watch the highlights and that kind of thing. So for the first time in ages, I feel like I'm really out of the loop with Wednesday. But so I asked a mate of mine who's not a Wednesday fan, but he's a big follower of football, and said, so what, from the outside looking in, what do you think has changed from the Wednesday team that made it to the playoffs 2 seasons ago and made it to playoffs again last season and kind of haven't got over the line? And he said, I've got nothing to say about that other than I've been playing 2 computer games recently. I've been playing the latest FIFA. I've been playing the latest Football Manager. And in both of those, I've noticed that Wednesday have got promoted automatically. So clearly, the squad is good enough. And maybe it's about the management, the coaching, the players not necessarily playing to their potential. And I can kind of see the way that works. I can understand that that's possibly the case with Wednesday. And then I saw another thing this week, that Wednesday right now are, even though we feel like we're not having a great season, we are only 1 point and 1 place below where we were at this time last season, where we finished 4th. And, you know, I know we've talked about, or you guys have talked about on the podcast, that we have an expectation that we're going to progress and progress and progress. And I also think there's this cloud hanging over us of a much smaller club that is inconsequential, that are somehow having a much better autumn than I think anybody expected. And so I think that there's a natural pessimism there that we're always going to have until we have well and truly turned a corner. So it hasn't. I'm not at the point where I think that we are underperforming. I'm at the point where this is, I think, a pivotal point of the season. If we can make 3 wins in a row, I think we can start making an argument that we have, that we're back on a run, and that we can do what we've done the last 2 seasons, which is start slowly and pick up. Bristol City at home, we should be beating them. I don't care what run they've been on. We are better than them, and we should be winning. And so let's see what the team brings. I think the good thing is that we haven't had in this international break a lot of players that have been actually playing international football. I think their eyes on the prize. I think I think we're trending up. And I honestly believe that we can win this game and then kick on from there. And let's see where we are. You're going into the Christmas period, because that again will define our season like it has in the last 2 years.
I don't agree with you.
That's a surprise.
Well, no, right, listen, I've seen Bristol City play 4 times this season. I don't know why, I just have. And I watched them play Stoke in a cup game. I think it was a League Cup. And they ran through them like they weren't there. They're a very well-organised team, Bristol City. And they are. They are a tiny, provincial little club. And had it not been for my mate Dan, who's an avid City fan, he's got his season ticket and whatnot, I wouldn't know who Bobby Reid is. That's the guy who's swinging the fire extinguisher. But I love their centre-back, Aidan Flint. Big fan of his. He's the plate DJ, or the one with the coat over the jacket.
Yes, he's my favourite. Yeah. I love him.
He's proper right up my street in terms of a centre-back. Just a big, and I love this term, shit kicker. He just is. It's what he does. And watching the way they attack the wings, and they come in on that 4-5-1 and cut inside like Rivaldo used to do in the 90s. They very rarely hit the byline and cross it in. You know, a lot of teams are doing that now anyway. And yeah, they're a very organised squad. I'm actually shiting myself about this game coming forward because they've been excellent. And how many times have you seen Bobby Reid celebrating with the fire extinguisher, which has to be a big knob gag. It's got to be. It's just been trolling the all of internet.
Or he goes off really easily. It's one or the other, isn't it?
It's either. But as far as where we are with Carlos and the point you were making, Eddie, about what's the perception about Sheffield Wednesday, me personally, I think it's down to 2 things, and I said the same to Beastie on a previous interview. Carlos has peaked, and I think the issue we've got is a motivational issue. Yes, his tactics might be this, and they might be revered in these circles, but look at Ron Atkinson. Oh, Ron Atkinson was a silly old sod. Do you know what I mean? He didn't know what day it was, because he was pissed 24/7. But when it comes to galvanising a group of players to dig one out, he did it, and he managed it. And that's what personality can get you a long way in some scenarios. And Carlos, for me, you said then we're 1 point off where we were before, and we've got the playoffs. The playoffs aren't good enough for me anymore. I'm sorry, but I want to finish higher than the playoffs, because I don't. And like I said, exactly the same to Beastie. I don't trust Carlos to take us to another playoffs, because this is a man who brought on Ati Nuhu and Jeremy Halan to try and outsmart a team that were already an established yo-yo team who were one better than us, which I find obscenely stupid and moronic and just an absolute last roll of the dice. I don't trust him to take us to another playoffs. So yes, we might be on the same level as last year, but I want better than that because we spent a shit ton of money and we don't seem to have got anywhere better in 3 years.
Fudge, question. Right now, would you take the playoffs right now?
No, I didn't get in the fucking bin. I don't want them. I'd rather finish mid-table and eke a season out and him.
No, Fudge, no.
I can't do the playoffs again. I can't do it. I said to you the day before that Huddersfield game, why are you all sucking everybody's dick that we've got a draw against Huddersfield away? They're going to turn up. They're going to play for penalties, and that's exactly what they did. And hilariously, because the manager's German. As far as they're concerned, winning a penalty shootout is a legitimate way of winning a game. And we don't believe that because we're British and we do things proper. We have to win. We have to win in a certain way. Now the Germans just need to win by any cost. Look at what they did to Brazil when they smashed their backsides out in the World Cup. They could have took the gas off at 5-1, 5-0, and they didn't. They wanted to destroy them because that's the mentality they've got. And we don't have that. And that's what we need. I cannot go through another playoff failure. I don't trust him enough.
Are we, right, legitimately then, are we a top 2 side? Looking at our squad, forget about Carlos for a minute. Forget about if you were, you could parachute any manager in there. Is that squad a top 2 squad?
No, it's not, and that's my issue because it bloody should be.
So there you go. So in that case, the playoffs is where we have to aspire to be. I'd snap your hand off for the playoffs.
No, I wouldn't snap your hand off for the playoffs. I would we're in the playoffs. Mint. Yay, another 200 quid day out for sheer abject failure. Mint.
I think that squad's good enough. I just don't think it's the best isn't being got out of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely. And I don't put it all on Carlos. I think the way the club is set up at the moment is not empowering anybody from the chairman through his advisors, through to Carlos, through to the players. There's a lot of uncertainty there, and uncertainty breeds fear, which breeds underperformance, and that's where we are at the moment. And actually, I think if I'd been on the podcast for the last 6 weeks rather than being lost in France, then I probably would have made the point at a better time when things were looking a bit bleaker. I honestly believe, as an optimist, that there's quite a lot of hope around right now, but the underlying problems are still there. And you look at, I don't like to talk about them because they're not. All of this is a mirage. But across the city, they have got somebody who is empowering their entire organisation to be the best that they can.
But they've got an old school manager, haven't they? That's the thing.
And that only works for so long, but right now it's working. Yeah. And that annoys me, right? And it's really easy for me to sit in North Yorkshire and not have to deal with it. I came home after the derby, and there were 2 blades that I had to face the next day, right? When we beat Leeds 3-0, it was brilliant because I've got so many friends up here who support Leeds, and I could lord it over them the entire time, right? But it's not about us, the fans. It's actually about getting that team across the line. I don't think what they have is sustainable. I think what we have is sustainable. I think the problem that we've got is that there is this disconnect right now between the 3 levels of operations in the team, from the front office, the chairman and his advisors, to the coaching side, to the players. And I really hope that we're going to go on a run now that shows that there isn't the break between the 2 most important parts of that, which is Carlos and his tactics and his coaching team, and the players there to execute it. Because I've honestly seen some really encouraging stuff in the last 2 games.
And I don't. The United thing really isn't helping us. That's pressuring more people than they'll let on, I think, because they're doing so well
for the fans, especially.
Yeah, absolutely. But then Chris Wilder regularly comes up to Hallam now, and you know what? I don't see anybody from Wednesday turning up there, and that's what frustrates me to hell. Yeah. I even had to shake his hand on whenever it was, Tuesday night, and just like I did wash my hand afterwards, just like. But,
did you spit on it before?
No, but he turns up, and you know what? There's no bugger comes from Wednesday, and that's bloody frustrating, big time.
Me and John come. Does that not count?
Well, yeah, you 2 come, but you didn't drink as much as you promised, so.
I've got no criticism whatsoever of Chris Wilder or his players. They are doing exactly what you would want a scrappy underdog team to do. And you know what? It'll take them as far as it takes them. And I just hope, as a Wednesday fan, I hope that the wheels fall off. But I would do the exact same thing in their position. So, get on with it. But for us as fans, it's difficult because we don't have to deal with Chris Wilder and the Sheffield United players. We have to deal with the Sheffield United fans. And they've got a lot to say right now. So, yeah, we as Wednesday fans, I think we should take it with good grace. Probably drop the nut on a few of them, and then we'll see where we are at the end of the season. But for us as Wednesday, I think that we're right on the balance at the moment. This is the part of the season where we will show as an organisation, are we underperforming relative to our talent and our coaching and everything? Are we going to turn this round and going to run like we have done the last 2 seasons and solidify ourselves as a perennial contender in this division? Or are we going to just fold? And right, two games ago, I was probably on the edge of saying, you know what, this is a lost season already. I think there's some shoots here. There's some shoots that are recovering. I think we can do it, but it needs to carry on. And Saturday will be a litmus test.
Do you know what I think? And I think you probably to summarise all this, we've just got to go and beat Bristol City. That's all we've got to do. Just beat Bristol City. Yeah. We're at that stage of the season where we've got to take it one game at a time. We've got Bristol City. Then on next Wednesday, we've got Ipswich, which, neither of them are particularly easy games. Ipswich have not made a bad start to the season. We've got to go out. We've got to win on Saturday. We've got a decent amount of time before the midweek game. We've got an extra day than you would normally get, and we're actually playing on Saturday for once. So we've got enough time to prepare properly for Ipswich on Wednesday. Let's just at this point, let's take it one game at a time and just keep winning them.
Absolutely. Jolly well said, Jamesy Albeen. And throughout that whole monologue there, we didn't have a knob gag from Fudge as well, which I'm very disappointed about, Fudgy Albeen.
We were talking football for a bit there. Who do we think we are?
Hang on, the whole thing about a fire extinguisher hose and waving that around. So,
I'm disappointed.
If that's not a knob gag, then I don't know what knob gags are.
Helicopter knob, innit?
Yeah, I literally said the words knob gag as well. So we did.
Right then, ladies and gents. So we're going to start wrapping up because it's obviously been a bit of a long one. This one, there's your knob gag, Quidgy. Before we leave for this evening, I would just like to find out your best bits of being part of this wonderful podcast. Victoria, my darling, let's start with you.
Okay, my lord. I think my favourite thing is it always happens when me and James are out together, whether it's like having lunch or a drink or we're in the pub. My favourite thing is when people come over and go, "Oh, you're actually friends in real life." That's the I love it every single time. I like wet myself. People go, "Oh my God, are you with James?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Oh, I didn't know you were friends in real life." No, it's like all together for a laugh, mate. It's just like, it was sponsored or something. Thomas Cook. There we go. But yeah, that's my favourite bit.
Oh. And Jamesy Albeen, what's your favourite part of being part of this nonsense for all these years?
It's so hard because there's so much to choose from. I mentioned about the class of '91 thing earlier, which was brilliant. I've got to kind of mention the fact that through doing this podcast, it's led on to me being able to become like the ultimate media whore and basically turn up to the opening of an envelope when I get to do anything, TV, radio, newspaper, just give me a shout, I'll do anything. But I'm actually going to pick out probably my favourite single thing was really early on in my time with the Wednesday Week, and it was when we were away at Brentford. Now we've already kind of told some of the stories about this because it was the day first. It was the first time that I ever met Billy the Bee, who some Wednesday fans will have met, who's become a really good pal, and he's put me in touch with some brilliant people. And it was also the first time that I ever met David Garrido in real life. And it was also, most importantly, it was the birth of the drunken interview. Yay! And to this day remains probably the most drunken of all drunken interviews that I've done, in terms of the fact that I could barely speak when I was chatting to David after the game. So just that whole day, and the fact that we won in injury time as well, I just have to pick out that whole day as just being fantastic, and so much of it was related to the Wednesday week. So that was just a brilliant day.
Fantastic. Dickie or Bean, how about you?
Yeah, I've got two kind of, I think the things that I've really enjoyed, particularly podcasts. I think one was where Fudge rebooted, which I don't think we've ever laughed so much in our lives as when he went all cyborg and then completely shut down and then came back and then shut down again. So yeah, that was one of them, and the other one was when my only feature ever on this fucking podcast, Eddie. See, I'd lined up Andy Pierce to talk to him, you know, and then Chris Morris, and I know where he fucking is. Thanks, Ed.
Where is it now?
Yeah.
Where are you now?
I might resurrect it one day, you never know.
My one was, I can't pick one. Can you, Eddie? Because I can't pick one.
Oh, God, yeah.
Because I'm like...
So, my favourites have been moments where I have just literally not been able to speak for laughing. I mean, we've talked already about you getting your 10th red card of the season, which was amazing.
Yeah.
There's two of them. So, number one was when we were reviewing Charlton away in the early days, and Beastie's entire match review was how much vodka he drunk, and then he'd got on the train and ended up in Chuffing Swanscombe. And Chuffing Swanscombe has basically become my all-purpose swear word whenever I'm driving, especially when I'm on the M25, because you're on the M25, you can always get assigned to Swanscombe. Chuffing Swanscombe basically is my catch-all for whenever I get any kind of traffic whatsoever. My other one is, and it's not a laugh because it was intrinsically funny. It was how far we've come as a little family, and I include all the listeners in this and the little community that we've built up. And I think we've made some incredible friends over the years, especially from climes far away. I love the fact that the Owls Americas have got their old podcast, because so many of them were really bought into the Wednesday week in the early days. And shout out to Paddy and Jeff and all those guys from the New York Owlsies, now Owls Americas. I love the fact that I could turn on the TV at one point this autumn and be watching the Championship and hear Colin Murray off of TV and radio say, James does the Wednesday Week podcast. He knows what he's talking about. And he knows his stuff. And for me, just, no, he doesn't. He's permanently pissed. What? So we have pulled the wool over everyone's eyes for the last 6 years.
And do you know what? How many of these people would we have not met if we had done this shit?
I was going to say that was mine.
Brazil Owls, Rafa from Brazil Owls, and
everyone,
and Paddy, and there's loads of people that we've kind
Lee
of.
Peacock.
Yes.
Would we have spent many beautiful nights with Lee Peacock if it wasn't for the Wednesday Week podcast? So for that, so on a personal level, all of you, you all know, so dear to me. Everyone that listens, it's been brilliant to be part of this, and long may it continue. And actually, there's a part of me thinking, I've spent basically 4 months out, and why the hell did I do that? Because it was ridiculous. But thank you. It's been brilliant. I've really enjoyed tonight, and I'm really enjoying being part of the family again. Thank you.
Anytime, mate. You know what I mean. You're always welcome. There's always a kettle on here for you. You know what I mean. I can't pick one. I'm struggling. I do his Beastie Swanscombe story. Absolutely incredible. Meeting Lee Peacock and now him sending me weird videos every day. He's found some website where he just gets these really dodgy videos off. Like, for example, he sent me one today of somebody drawing a lady with her legs akimbo on their rearview mirror, and then when they pressed the up button on their window, a cock and bollocks just went inside it. Do you know what I mean? Brilliant. Cheers, Lee. Thanks a lot for that. I remember James being really annoyed with me because I went to Bristol City and didn't tell him. That pissed him off.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have known. If you hadn't have walked into the same pub that I was already in, I
You
would
wouldn't
never
have known
have
I was
known. Like, I'm still genuinely offended by this. I'd just about forgotten to remind me about it. But that's it. I'm going on mute now. I don't want to speak to you.
Because I'd say it's just like what you said as well, the amount of people that I've met. Now, I can just now rock in. I can, get on a train, come up, rock in, and I've got a group of friends ready to go. Do you know what I mean? I haven't got to convince one of my long-suffering friends to come to Hillsborough with me. Do you know what I mean? I've got some people I can go with. And yeah, that one at Bristol City, like my mate Dan went, do you want to come to the game? Yeah, I'll go. I thought, we might run into the guys. And when you get two different groups of mates and you think, well, if they don't get on and stuff like that. And yeah, all right, James. All right, Fudge. Yeah, how's it going? Not so bad. Wait, you didn't tell me you were coming to this game. Sorry, mate. Yeah, I just, and Mardy. It was
I think
Mardy.
that's another thing to say as well, is like the amount of times that you go into the Riverside Cafe or something, and there are people there, like there's always
Definitely.
the cop end, like we know them, we've stolen their spot under the canopy and all that. But there are certain people that come up like game after game, and some people we don't know the names or whatever, but we know that they listen, and they're like just chat to us like about the podcast, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, I forgot I said that. Like there's people like there's John, Olive Grove, and there's a few others that just have genuinely become like part of the group now. It's really nice. It's such a friendly group. Like there's never any trouble. There's never an argument. Kieran, obviously, old Fessy. But there's always a group of people there that, like you said, Fudge, you can just rock up, and it doesn't matter. Like sometimes I get up to the pub before anyone else or after anyone else, and I can still sit and have a drink with people because I know them and I've talked to them, and it's great.
Absolutely.
Is there any room to get a pint and sit down nowadays?
You can't sit down, but you can get a pint.
No.
All right, I'm there. The kids are probably old enough to play on the road.
An outside bar.
Now open on match days.
Now, my favourite thing about the podcast, I mean, we'd been doing this for quite a long time, and obviously in the old days, nobody really listened, so we could get away with having free bandwidth and things like that. And then people started to listen, and then obviously we had to get sponsorship because it got rather expensive, and that was amazing to me that somebody would sponsor the show. But then, really, when we did the Muff Fund, and people that listened to the podcast actually donated proper money, so we could have proper muffs and things on there. I personally found that so humbling and so incredible, and so unbelievable that all these wonderful people that listen to us just talking about nonsense every week actually put their hand to their pockets and just a few quid. It blew my mind completely, and you guys know that I really didn't want to do the Muff Fund because I found it quite embarrassing. But the fact that people did that was just absolutely amazing to me. It really was.
You weren't happy with it. You were thinking.
We let James, the radio professional, take over on that, didn't we? He was like, "You need to get microphones."
Yeah, because everything sounded crap before then, and now it sounds brilliant.
Genuinely, the people that listen to this podcast, obviously not just long-standing listeners like Lee Brown and Andy McEwen and Cy and all those people, but people that listen, just anybody that listens to a group of mates talking about football and just having a laugh is mind-blowing. It really is. And I honestly, I'm getting a bit gushy now, but I really can't thank you enough. I think it's absolutely amazing. I really, really do. Right, then, ladies and gents, that is going to bring an end to the 150th podcast anniversary. Eventually, as I'm sure some of you are now screaming at your iPods. James, or Bean, if people want to get all of you over there on the Twitterage, where can we do that, my friend?
I want to give a special mention to the thing that came second in my favourite moments in the Wednesday Week podcast, which was actually something that happened this week, which was a post on Owls Talk where they were discussing which podcast they enjoy listening to. Just two quotes that I want to mention from this thread. Yeah. One of them from GHS, and a very big hello to you, who says... James Marriott talks sense, I believe. And then the post just below that from Ethel the Tree, who says, I'm sorry to say this, I'm not a huge fan of Fudge. He can be mildly amusing 1 minute and totally irritating the next. I thought they were profound comments from...
Well, what do you say to that? Like, it's not like they went, I find him hilarious in one sense and then annoying in the other. I could have dealt with that. No, the best I'm getting is mildly amusing. I mean, you know what I mean? No. Bloody Owls talk. Bloody rubbish.
So anyway, Twitter at James Marriott.
Fantastic. Eddie, old boy, if people want to find you and find out where you are in the world and where you got lost this time, where can we do that, Albin?
So firstly, as a veteran of Owls Talk, as some might say a sacred cow, it's really simple. If anything offends you on Owls Talk, you immediately fire back by posting in all capitals, "Say it to my face," or "I'll meet you in the North Stand, I'll owl you to the floor." So Fudge, do that. Don't take this lying down. I think you're mildly irritating, but I would only go as far as say mildly. So I am at Sausage Arms, and as of Thursday, the 30th of November, I am also at New York Owls, because I'm going to be over there in New York enjoying the Hull City game with the rest of the New York Owls crew.
That Fudge?
Eddie, I'm having. No. Me and Fudge are going on holiday together, and you're not invited. Just get over it. All right. So I'll be around. Honestly, thank you for not forgetting me in the intervening months. But at Sausage Arms. Love you all. Bye.
Dickie Owl or Bean, if you want to get a review up there on the Twitterage, where can we do that?
Yeah, you're just giving it away. You just said it. Dickie Owl. At Dickie Owl, you can find me on Twitter. Where I'll just be ranting shit, no doubt, on Saturday, depending on the result.
Victoria, my darling, our lady of the podcast, where can people find you over there on the Twitterage?
I don't think I've been called a lady for a long time, but you can find me at Victoria1867 on the Twitter, and I don't answer the emails, so sorry about that.
I've called you lady a few times in a kind of a derogatory sense.
It's normally when you telling
lady,
it off.
pipe down.
Exactly. It's never. Come on, lady, let's go for a walk. It's always like, hurry up, lady.
And last but by certainly no means least, Mr. Fudge or Bean. If people want to find out of your sticky fudgy nonsense, where can we do that?
On Twitter at Dan Fudge, or in not the comedy clubs, the mildly amusing ones. You can find me in them.
Of course, if you want to get hold of me over there on the Twitter, you can do that at Lord H. That's L0RD_H. You can get hold of the podcast at TWWcast. You can find us on Facebook, find us on the YouTubes, and in all the usual places as always. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking to you for the last 150 shows. Be good, be safe, and we shall see you real soon.
The chance here.